God, for whom the sea calms is raging and the wind cease to blow. God of our weary years and God of our silent tears, thou who hast kept us, loved us, and mercifully redeemed us. Speak now from your word, that we may be inspired, enlightened, and given hope in the midst of despair. Lord, send us your light, for darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. For hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. This we pray in Jesus' name. Amen. You know, growing up, there was never a shortage of pictures in my house. See, there were baby pictures and pictures celebrating various graduations, photo albums filled with great aunts and uncles, cousins I'd yet to meet, random photographs of family members, friends of the family, birthday parties. Images were always abundant in my house. No matter the photo, I always knew how I was connected to each person in those images. They were like family, except for four. My mother kept 4 pictures, 4 images of people that were not family. I knew that because one of them was a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white guy. I always found that to be a little weird. But these 4 images, Jesus, Nelson Mandela, Malcolm X, and Dr. Martin Luther King, were and continue to be staples in my house. Pictures of people who my mother hoped her children would emulate one day. Lives frozen in time. These lives remind us of the best of humanity, and they remind us of the promise of the beloved community. These lives of love, of persistence, of courage and justice. And so today, on the eve of this, the 31st observance of the life and legacy of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., I find myself reflecting on these values as we stand on the banks of a political current that promises to carry us into a new era as our collective lives as Americans. As we stand on the banks of that current, I can't help but wonder what place these values, love, persistence, courage, justice, what place these values will hold for us as a nation and what they say to us as Christians right now. See, in the same week that we celebrate the legacy and life of the protester, the civil rights leader, and America's greatest public theologian, we will install as president one whose rhetoric at times makes some feel at best uneasy and at worst fearful for their very lives. And still for others, promises to provide a sense of being seen for the first time in what must seem like a lifetime. And so, as faithful members of Christ's body, we are forced to grapple with the unsettling reality of this moment, what this moment says to us today. We must confront what this moment means for the lives of Black and brown, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, Muslim, immigrant, refugee, and every marginalized other. We must face the fierce urgency of now. These questions are at the heart of our national discourse, this conundrum at the center of our calling as the children of God. And I think it's perhaps best answered in this morning's text. This morning we find John writing to a small group of believers, not unlike ourselves. This small group of believers, people who trust God and hold fast to the promise of joining Christ in the resurrection. A small group of Christians who have been taught the importance of love, of persistence, of courage, and justice. Here, a small group of Christians are now confronting a challenge to what they know to be true, a challenge to what they consider the core of their faith. It's a time of divisiveness, a time where people that claim to believe as they do fail to act in accordance with those beliefs. It's a time, as Paul's second letter to Timothy reminds us, where people have itching ears and listen only to information that suits their desires or confirms their own bias. And so John puts pen to paper this morning and reminds the children of God the truth of the faith to which they hold fast, in the place they all hold in the heart of God. We are God's children now. We are God's children now, and this is the call that John makes to all the people that they might come to themselves. We are God's children now, no longer bound to a heartless law, but now living under grace obtained by the life and blood of Christ. John reminds the believers that they are indeed the children of God, and that the time is and has always been right now. The fierce urgency of now is the call to remember what makes us, us. What defines us and sets us apart as Christians. It's a simple word, I believe. A word I've been discussing with the middle schoolers and high schoolers here at First Presbyterian. It's a word that defined Dr. King's ministry, and it's a word that seems to have been forgotten in the midst of our present civil discourse. Love. Love is so central to John that he spends the rest of chapter 3 and half of chapter 4 discussing this very virtue. He begins in verse 11 with a simple, straightforward reminder. For this is the message you have heard from the beginning, that we should love one another. And then later concludes with the thought, perfect love casts out fear. Perfect love. Perfect love casts out fear. And if perfect love casts out all fear, then we today must be mindful of any talk of love, any call for unity that elicits fear from those who are fearful for their lives, that elicits fear from those who cannot find themselves in this vast American dream. Christ will call them the least of these. If we speak of love, if we call for reconciliation, if we send forth the word to come together and forget a sense of justice and righteousness, if we fail to remember the Christ in our Christianity, if we fall short of the high calling of God, we risk becoming what Dr. King saw as a dry, dead, do-nothing religion. A religion, he said, that professes to be concerned about the souls of men, but is not concerned about the slums that damn them, the economic conditions that strangle them, and the social conditions that cripple them. And so today I ask, how Christ-centered is our Christianity, friends? If someone were to write a biography from what we post online or what we talk about over coffee, what we listen to on the radio from the day to day, would they conclude that we have the heart of a Christian? Right now, we cannot afford a cosmetic love, a love painted over, a love shaped or given definition, but what we alone find attractive. There are bodies at stake. Now is the time that we cling to a love that is all-consuming, that is boundless, that's inspiring. But what does this love look like? Well, I'm quite glad you asked that question. John's word gives us a hand in verse 18. Let us love, not in word or speech, but in truth and action. The command to love is a command to live, as the prophet Micah said, to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with our God. Justice, kindness, humility, along with love, persistence, and courage. These are the things that we can hold on to. These are the things, the very raw material from which Dr. King dared to dream of an America where all God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, would be able to partake in the full promise of this nation. This is our hope. And this is the faith to which we belong. This is the faith with which I look forward to the coming days. Because love, Christian love, looks like God's justice. God's justice is a justice that values all life, but is particularly concerned with the least among us. It's a justice that we've seen throughout the Bible. It's a justice that healed the woman with the issue of blood through her persistent faith that allowed her to push through all adversity. It's a justice that told the woman at the well that she had meaning beyond who she was connected to. It's a justice that called forth blind Bartimaeus on the Jericho road to restore his light and to restore his sight. It's a justice that inspired Peter and John to heal the man before the gate called Beautiful. It's a justice that's more concerned with showing God's love than lending empty words and broken promises. The time is and has always been now, friends. It has always been now to do God's justice and to show God's love. This is the high calling of our faith, a faith that we cling to, a faith that helps us through the stormy seas of life that blow us to and fro. Friends, today I implore you to hold fast to this faith. This faith is the faith that liberated my ancestors. It's a faith that allowed them to straighten their backs against the winds of racism and prejudice and to fight for the promise of this American dream so that their children and their children's children could speak from a pulpit much like this one today. It's a faith that sustained immigrants as they sailed for the shores of America, dreaming and hoping for a future way back in the 20th century. And it sustains political refugees today in the 21st century as they fight to obtain their own freedom. It's a faith that secured for women the right to vote. And it's a faith that calls 3 black women to assert that Black Lives Matter in the face of those few who would have us believe otherwise. This is our faith. This is our shared legacy, loving one another in the spirit of unity that says that all are welcome at the table because we are God's children now. A few nights ago, some of you may have tuned in to President Obama's farewell address. He said something quite interesting. He said democracy does not require uniform. And so too, our Christianity does not require us all to enjoy the same worship styles or to sing the same hymns, but it does require that we love justice and that we despise evil. John's words seem to have been borrowed by President Obama because it's John who says in verse 17, how does God's love abide in anyone who has the world's good and sees a brother or sister in need and yet refuses to help? Now is too perilous a time to cling to any type of selfish materialism. We are called to give more, to do more, to love more. Now is the time when we must, as Dr. King said, move from a thing-oriented society to a person-oriented society. Now is the time we have to work to bring heaven to earth. We are God's children now. That's a privilege. It's a privilege that allows for the divine future of hope to break into the mortal present of despair. We are God's children now. Revealing for the oppressed, the abandoned, and the forgotten the light of God's hope. This is our privilege. And this is what we share. To serve a God that makes every crooked place straight and every high place low. It's the privilege to know that our Savior has made us victorious over defeat and incorruptible in death. That is the promise. It is the persisting promise of God's love, that in the midst of every moment, God's justice is the reality we work to reveal every day. I want to leave you with a story this morning. It's a story often told by a young preacher in Alexandria, Virginia. It's the story of his father, who, like so many other black men and women in the 1920s, 30s, and 40s, left the Jim Crow South for a hope-filled North with its promises of employment and dignity. So this young preacher's father boarded a segregated bus on his way from Louisiana to Chicago, driving along I-57. He got on the bus and made his way back to the colored section. With a grease-stained brown bag lunch of chicken and ham sandwiches to hold him over to his destination, he settled in for what would be a long ride. A few hours into the journey, the bus driver pulled over to a rest stop right outside of Memphis, Tennessee. They had to use the restroom. Couldn't help it, didn't have anything to do about it, but they knew they had to use the bathroom. But before they got off the bus, the driver offered a few words of wisdom. He said, "Now, you colored folk, I would highly advise you use the facilities as quickly as possible. This town is not too hospitable to people of color." And so those African-American passengers made their way on off the bus to go to the bathroom. And when they got there, they found out that not only were the bathrooms segregated, but that the colored restroom was a pay per use. They needed money to use the bathroom. Hands in their pockets, grasping nothing but lint and their ticket stubs, not a nickel between them. They began to wonder how they were going to use the bathroom. But just then, an older gentleman began to make his way through the crowd, pushing his way to the bathroom door. And when he got there, he whipped out his only nickel. And just before he put it in the slot to pay to use the bathroom, someone, one of the young men, opened their mouths and said, "What about us? We've got to use the bathroom too." So he turned his head with a slight smile and said, "Don't worry. After I pay the price, I'll hold the door open for you." What doors are you holding open today? What price are you paying? What price are you paying, knowing that you'll never hear thank you? Knowing that someone will never call your name? What doors are you holding open? Do you feel the fierce urgency of now, friends? The pregnant possibility of this moment? This is why we hold doors open. This is why we give charitably. This is why we speak truth to power. This is why we love one another authentically. This is why we reject every notion of racism, every notion of sexism, Islamophobia, homophobia, economic exploitation. This is why we hold doors open now, and we cling to God's love, to God's justice. For it's not just Martin's dream. This is God's dream for God's people, and is the hope of each of us as the children of God right now. God bless.